Call the meeting to order, 6:30. Roll call of members. Rebecca Hansen, Don Kelly, Brian Dutel, Andy McDonald, Steve Whitman, Bill Bolton, and myself are here. I see no comments from the public. The public's not here tonight. We'll move on to the minutes. We have to approve a number of these. The minutes from September 3rd.
I move that those minutes be approved as written.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to September 17th.
I move that these minutes be accepted as written.
Second. Okay, so no objections, those are accepted.
I'm sorry, I missed the second.
I
Bill?
I thought you seconded. I
No,
thought you were feeling your power again. Okay, second.
Okay, minutes for October 1st. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as written?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, did we vote on that, on the September 17th?
October 1st.
Okay, but did we vote on the 17th? or-
Yes, I think if there are no objections, that accept it, so
All right.
we can do that.
Look.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes for October 1st?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any objections to approving them? They're approved. October 15th. This is the Kirk's project mostly, I think. Do we have a motion to approve these minutes as written?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, if no objections, they're approved. On to the master plan. I hope we all did our homework this week, not like last time. So Tara, what's up? We're gonna review the final draft?
So the map, we had, at the last meeting, changed a few questions to point to a map instead of listing areas of town. So I sent Sharon a base map with a reminder. Thank you. Somebody on this end needs to draw the areas of town. We'll have a starting point.
Yeah, that's why there's a blank map also. This is just a.
Maybe somebody needs to make the hard decision of getting rid of the overlap in there, right, so that somebody who gets a survey can pick definitively which part of town they're responding from.
Okay, do we have an official scribe? Or are you gonna do that, or what are we gonna do here? Area by area, starting with the downtown?
Question? Are you thinking that it'll still stay as much as possible a bubble diagram so people don't get hung up on which parcel falls in which area? Because it's not really intended to be a zoning map. It's really just.
Well, it should cover the town and not have overlap.
No, understood.
I'm not
but
picturing bubbles, but,
my point was, as instead of following property lines and
Oh,
making
yeah,
it a
no,
hard
we're
and
not
fast
following
map,
property
bubble
lines.
map in the sense of being more conceptual. Just
great.
otherwise, you'll never get the survey out.
Well, I have a request, being colorblind, that it not be color-coded so that red and green color.
It's not gonna be color coded. This,
Okay.
I mean, we're already gonna be way over budget.
Yeah, no, this
on
is
the
just
survey.
so you can see it.
So online, the online map will just be black and white as well?
I would just take a marker and draw lines and put numbers.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's why you have your second sheet that has nothing on it.
maybe somebody would just volunteer to do that and work with Sharon on it to send it back to me.
And then are you gonna make a map based on that, or just take a image of the marker?
Depends how tiny it is. If it's tiny, we'll just scan it. If not, we'll redraw it and somebody besides me in the office who can do it maybe.
Okay, so this is a map, the base
That's the
information.
base, yeah.
We
The
can
tax
use,
map.
we can use that, right?
On the tax map.
Okay. Who has the most local expertise?
Seems like by looking at the color, we really just need to hammer out the, let me look at this, the, north downtown, the campus versus downtown.
There are 3 questions tied to this. One is where you live, and one is where do you want to see the majority of new residential development, and one is where do you want to see the majority of new business development. So, I mean, that should help your logic, because to some extent, it is going to follow zoning boundaries, right? You know, where there's a zoning boundary in that area, it makes sense to kind of follow that.
Okay, well, I'll volunteer to work with Sharon and get the lines in
Okay, in
place.
cases of overlap, you just want to not overlap, just go for
Yeah, we'll just,
the area, the type, the description of the area we're looking at in terms of feedback. So we just, if it overlaps, then you don't include the overlap, I guess.
There's some problems, but I guess you're gonna have to live with it for the fact that, like the north of downtown, you got like four regions in that north of downtown.
Well, see, this was the reason not to have a map. I mean, I thought it was fine to just list the areas of town, seriously, that, I'm not, but you all felt strongly that you wanted a map, so here's a map.
I think we
Now
can-
you have
yeah,
to
I
make
think
it
we
work.
can- We can do the map easily enough.
Why can't we use the zoning map?
Because it's really messy.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
I've
you don't
seen-
want to show that to
I've
people.
seen the maps here in Plymouth before, and it's been at meetings, and it's been very specific as far as agriculture is concerned, as far as
But do
the
you want to be
college
limited
campus.
to that? You know, that,
This doesn't make too much sense. With 4 or 5 different circles in one place.
Well, we just have to.
No.
It's like coloring within the lines, it's really not that complicated.
Also, and, I mean, the yellow would probably just not be
No,
there, it'd just be
that's-
gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's just, like I said, this is a working,
I think it'd be fairly easy to simplify.
I think the one thing it is worth delineating fairly accurately is the campus, because of the questions that pertain to that.
I guess what I'm saying is, the zoning map doesn't overlap, and this map overlaps, so it makes it more confusing than if you had no map at all.
I don't think there's any way we can get this onto a 8.5 by 11 and have it be.
well, you can't.
That is a little bit,
You've also got multiple uses in different zones that are duplicative, which is fine, but if you're trying to sort it out, it gets.
but you also, people don't think in terms of zoning maps. They don't think about where they live on your zoning map. They think about whether they live in West Plymouth or off Tenny Mountain Highway. They don't identify with a zoning district.
right, but the zoning map does indicate where the businesses can be.
Who cares? This is a master plan to decide where the zoning should allow businesses.
Right. It's as if the
We
zoning
don't care what the
doesn't exist.
zoning, right now, we don't care what the zoning says now. And we don't want people to be limited to that thinking. That's why you're gonna give them the whole choice of town. So, you don't wanna show them the zoning map. I think you wanna take it, into account as you're delineating these blobs to some extent. But you wanna encourage people to think out of the box. So the only purpose of the map is, when you ask people whether they live in downtown, campus, whatever, you want to give them some idea what you mean by that, so that you're all answering that the same
One way
way.
to do it is to focus rather than deletion or colors, and obviously, once again, that's just a working tool, is your your itemized area keyed in by letters. So, I mean, if downtown and campus are the same area, which they are, so you would have letter B and letter A. You know, you could slash it, or, I mean, because obviously, we're not gonna, the scale of this, no way you could do it. So just put, you know, the areas, like B and E and D and this and that, so it gives people just a general orientation.
Right, you could have no lines.
Yeah.
You could not have any lines.
That
You
might be
could
the
just
easy-
put letters in the
You're just
map.
trying to orient them as to
That's what I
the
thought.
connotation of what these areas are, where they are, because some people, you know, maybe college students or people who are recently here, whomever, wouldn't quite know where, you know.
Right, as a non-resident, I wouldn't know whether West Plymouth was all of this or just up by the.
Well, yeah, I
Rotary
mean, like I
kinda,
said,
right.
that's general, but you want to just orient them spatially to different parts of
Yeah.
town. That's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to delineate it literally, just orient them.
So if you don't want to put lines on the map, we can just put letters.
So would everybody be content with that?
Mm-hmm.
I think we've got it.
So we'll just work together on
Okay.
letters.
Just, the West Plymouth Teddy area, those are both listed, so just be aware of those, but, yeah.
I'm
They're all-
sorry?
The West
Oh,
Plymouth
right.
and Teddy, they're.
Right, so that would have,
Yeah.
yeah, share letters.
I don't know what you mean.
Tenny Mountain and West Plymouth are pretty much the same area, and you've got two different codes.
Right,
that's
so
just-
it
yeah,
would
just,
be whatever and whatever.
Yeah.
Did the survey get emailed out?
Electronically, yeah. Do you want me to
Yeah.
make physical copies?
No, I did. I handed that out,
Okay.
so.
I
Um,
didn't see what was attached. Oh, okay. No, it did, so hopefully people have had, that went out as soon as you gave it to me, so.
So it has the changes from the last meeting, and it has just a kind of placeholder cover letter. I don't know if you want to, Steve, if that's something that you want to take under your wing to customize, or?
Well, I went through it and I had just a couple points. The letter looks fine to me. Question 6. I wasn't sure campus was an appropriate choice for business development.
Yeah, well, I was told by you guys to make these lists identical. I put on there originally, but you all said you wanted the exact same list of places on 5, 6, and the where do you live question. So that's what I did. 15. So 5, 6, and 15 are the same list.
Okay.
I mean, campus does
didn't-
have the Enterprise Center, that's the only thing I can think of, which is an business incubator. So technically speaking, you could locate businesses there under that auspices.
All right.
But you were pretty. Mine was the same list.
Survey making is not as easy as you might think. Right?
Keep moving forward. And I'm gonna talk. It's good to be able to be talking about the logistics and timing. You know.
How do you want to do this? Do you want to go through question by question? So
Sorry.
How do you want to do this? Question by question?
Not really. I mean, this is everybody's done that a couple times on these. So
Okay, then I'll go on to my next point,
Yep.
which is question 9. Is there a reason we did not have tourism on there?
well, we talked at the last meeting about it had just at that time I think like retail, industry, and tourism. And I said, well, that's not really all the categories. So I went back to these are actual employment categories. You know how they be classified by state and federal government as far as employment categories, with the exception of if you had the big employment categories for the region, you'd also have government and construction in there, and I didn't include them because I don't think anybody sees government as economic development. We could. Then maybe the question is job creation, but and construction is kind of going with any one of these. So So these are basically the major employment categories. Tourism isn't so much an employment category, it's arts and recreation, or it's accommodation and food service, it's retail.
It's
Well, tourism would be included under F, I would suppose.
It's B, it's F, it's G. Tourism-related jobs are in all of those.
Okay.
If we have some of the majority of the land in Plymouth under agricultural, I don't see anything here on number 9 that says anything about agricultural.
That's right, I only put the employment categories that employ a significant percentage of people in the area. Just to have some way to.
Well, you have other, so if anyone really has, an intensity to,
We also asked specifically about agriculture in
Right.
question 7, so give people another opportunity to talk about that.
The only other comment I had, and I know we had this discussion last time, so you'll have to bear with me. On question 16, what did we decide about the single-family home versus the small starter home? I remember we had some discussion about these two categories.
Well, I added single-family home, it was pointed out that I had forgotten that.
Okay,
I
that's,
added it to 16 and 18, and we let people circle more than one, so they can say single-family home and small
okay,
starter
that's,
home.
all right, that refreshes my memory. Those are the only comments I had.
Steve? I just had one, and I wasn't here at the last meeting, so it can be ignored, but on 24C, I wasn't sure how the solar array got put in here, because if that goes forward, it won't be any cost to the town. It'd be a power purchase agreement. Or if you just want to get a sense of whether people are interested in it. I mean, I don't have a preference either way, but I just didn't want to raise an issue that might not exist. If it helps keep the survey shorter.
Because when you read the question, it does appear as if it might cost something.
Right.
Right.
And if it's not gonna cost something, that probably should be pointed out.
Right. We've been told that it won't go forward if it costs anything, so we've been planning on it being a power purchase agreement if it goes to the selectmen at all. So, I'd hate to see the survey then create questions for the selectmen if we bring something to you next month.
This would be a no-brainer if everyone said, yeah, we want to do a solar array at the recycling center. Perfect, no cost to us, that's.
Right.
So you want to scratch it from,
I think, speaking on behalf of the Energy Commission, I don't think we'd mind if that question wasn't in there. So, and if it's in there, I wanted to make sure everybody knew the status of that project.
Wouldn't you want to know how big your cheering committee is? I mean,
Yeah, we'd like to know all 7 people. I mean, it'd be fine if you want to get a sense of it. The timing may not line up.
right,
That's all.
so do you want to take it out or reword it?
for the sake of like making the questionnaire shorter. And the fact that it's not needed right here, we can probably scratch it.
Everybody in agreement on scratching that question? All right, gone.
If we could scratch about 10 more, you'd be back within your budget.
Hey, I just gave you one too.
Everybody's got to come up with one before we leave.
In a similar vein, 23A, the dedicated fund like the land use change tax.
In fact, I was looking at this question too, but, we could rewrite the question, but.
I don't object to it in there, I just don't know if that's, again, is it gonna be timing not quite lining up with Conservation Commission work, or is it something that's not gonna happen anyway? Or maybe it's good to, I feel like it's something people don't necessarily know about either.
Yeah. So you see it, just to bring attention to it would be kind of beneficial, even if we might have a solution for the next biennium.
Yeah, I guess I'm just not sure. way. I think it's something that's come up a few times, I know, with the selectmen and with the Conservation Commission. So,
Is that where when there's a change in use, it goes to conservation
Yeah, taking out land use to,
purposes?
yep.
I think they should leave it in there because if you're not mentioning it, I'm sure it's gonna slide by without anybody knowing it, and all of a sudden, people that have gotten away with taxes for a long time, and the people who've been paying excessive taxes for a long time might object to it going into a conservation program. So if you leave it in there, at least people could see it, see that that's a possibility.
What would be the reason not to ask? I'm not following.
I guess I don't have a reason necessarily, I just wanted to maybe start a conversation about that, that it's something that the Conservation Commission is been in conversation with the Select Board about. And at this point, we might have worked a go-around of the land use change tax and an alternative. I mean, I'm okay with leaving it in there, I just, you know.
Well, I have a question. What's the difference between this and a real estate transfer tax?
So the land use change tax is when land comes out of current use. There's a,
It's
Oh, and dedicating that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Or a portion of, or,
very small percentage of the taxes that you normally would pay,
Rather than an appropriation.
which,
or in addition to an appropriation. I mean, it could be, or grants or private donations.
Well, I think it should stay in, is my opinion. Anybody else?
I think it should stay in there.
Stays in? Okay. Any other comments or questions on the survey?
Quick typo, question 19A, just needs to be tabbled.
Oh,
Figures.
I had to stare at it for a while there.
I looked at it like 6 times.
wasn't sure if you were correcting typos or not. Just kidding.
Okay, any
I
other?
hate dealing with this formatting, so I'm really happy to have anybody find, just go to the typos that are formatting going awry.
I think there's B under, what is the last one? 24, it's sort of redundant, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot of response on that since we just paid $400,000 for a fire station.
Yeah,
I think
a piece of the fire station, I guess.
Hmm?
A piece of the fire station, you know,
What's that?
a piece of, you know, the overall fire station, you know. So, I mean, it could still stand additional renovations, you know, to complete.
The fire station, not a new one.
Expand and renovate fire station or build new safety complex for police and fire. So, I mean, it looks like, you know, that's one of the options, expand and renovate the fire station.
I
New
think
safety
part of that is new safety complex. And new safety complex is,
complex of
the
two.
police
Police
chief
and
said
fire.
it was okay, his outfit was okay, the fire department, we just paid $400,000 for it. I think it's something somebody stuck in, hoping to God that they can get a new Taj Mahal building, like Meredith and so forth.
I'm not trying to make the comparison, but it's similar to, like, you know, the way we're going to fund or perhaps fund conservation budgets. You know, I think we kind of already came into an agreement about how we'll probably fund it. It's not a done deal, but there's still, like, discussions, you know, ongoing. But so I think we kind of addressed the dedicated fund, like land use, you know, change tax. Just like we've kind of like renovated the fire station, but you know, it's not complete. And there's still on the table is, you know, a new safety complex, a full build-out of a, you know, fire police. You know.
I always seem to have a few years ago when I was selectman, they went along and some of the new buildings were coming in, like Walmart, and they said, well, you know, that's not gonna make any difference in the tax rate because we've already spent it. And it seems like what we're doing that right now with the new income properties coming in, we seem to be spending it almost as fast as we're, instead of lowering the tax rate. And I'm just cheap anyway, so. I don't have all the money like the state does and so forth.
This state?
They seem to.
All right. Any other comments? Are we ready to
One
send
moment.
this to the printer?
Could we, there's a question as far as should the college keep expanding? Because that is going to make quite a difference to a lot of people. Because that's all non-taxable property.
What's the mechanism for stopping it, or stopping any state entity from buying property? I guess would be my question.
Well, we should make moratoriums. The towns have done that before. But, you know, pretty soon, you know, they've got most of the prime property now, so, I don't know. I think it might be a good question to ask the people if they want to have the college keep expanding, and then their representatives will go down in the state and try to adjust it to whatever we're going to have, you know, to see whether they can slow it down or whether the people want it to be just one big college campus. And this is what this master plan is. Nothing legal, but it's something that you might like to see formulated in the years to come. And it means a lot.
You know, it kind of gets complex, because even if, you know, we were to like fire a shot across the bow and say, no more development on behalf of
I'm
the
not saying
university.
no more development, I'm just saying, do the town want that or they don't want it, and, you know. It's just like a lot of these questions, just like the question on the new safety
Right.
building. We can't stop it work, you know, this is merely a suggestion as to what do the people in Plymouth want.
Is that in the purview of what this survey is supposed to be? And I don't know, I'm asking the question. Is that in the purview of what this is hoping to achieve?
There's no reason you couldn't ask questions that don't relate to the town activities, but it would certainly be out of place in this survey, because right now, this is all things that you're gonna control with the master plan, the zoning, capital improvements.
I don't
So-
think and the master plan is nothing, it's not a legal document. You can't control anything with a master plan.
But it's recommendations for the planning board itself, for the select board, for the town bodies.
And for the land use regulations, which won't allow us to regulate PSU.
Right.
True.
The only thing I can think of is, I know it came up in the public meeting we had in, what was that, July, that a lot of people were interested in, you know, more university-town relations, and I mean, I can see us putting in a question along the lines of that. I feel like the question you posed is slightly leading, or a little, you know, sort of some implied bias in there, but I mean, it's the only thing I can think of doing, because that did come up a few times in the
I
meeting.
had something about that on a first draft.
And then we deleted it, probably, right? Yeah.
You're very patient, Terry.
I'm okay myself not including it. I'm just trying to sort of see if there's something that would translate to this survey.
Well, maybe we can get everybody's opinion on if they want an additional question about campus development or not. Shall we take a quick vote informally? Do we have to move something?
I personally like it as is. I don't think adding another question to it is
I kind of feel the same way. I think there's, I think you're pushing about 9 pages this time. It's gonna be hard for people to look at a survey and get it all filled out. It's gonna be, that's my concern with it, but.
I would agree.
You've given people the opportunity to say whether they want educational services as economic development and vast where in town you want to see more development. So you've asked around the pieces of it that you can influence a little bit.
Okay, so I think we're in agreement that we're not going to include that question, additional question.
So then, let's talk about a little bit.
Yes, we have 2 non-integrated and disparate mailing lists.
Right, and you were gonna have them sorted the same way and get me labels, not
Right.
databases, but labels.
No, I know, but they're having some problems even getting them to that point. So we're working on it. That should be resolved.
They don't need to integrate them,
No, I understand. No, I'm talking about,
Have them sorted the same way on the
basic technological antiquities. So we're sorting it out. One is not, it comes out, it's printed out on a totally different format. It's just about going to the techs at the places that make these and sorting it out for labels, because one whole set goes out on window envelopes. That's where you get the name data, so it's literally manipulating what you're dealing with to go on a label format. So it's just mechanics.
It should be really easy, but you can't give me the database to do it.
No,
Because
we're gonna do it. I'm just saying internally,
Right.
with the 2 entities that I'm dealing with who have the databases, they're totally different software, and one is just really funky and old.
I mean, at least I'm assuming you can't. Usually that's how the privacy works, is that you can give me labels but not the database.
Yeah, so we're working on the labels. It's gonna have to, it doesn't matter. That's
So
minutia,
what
but it's.
we can't even begin to talk about the timing and what you're gonna need to add to the budget because of it being longer than we budgeted for, till we know how many.
We can get printed out lists of the names so we can cross-reference them, but the actual physical creation of the labels is, we're working through that. We're so, 1982 with our technological.
So when
bits.
could I at least have lists of the names sorted the same way then? So we can get a count, because we need to work together on how we're gonna kind of fund the overage.
Probably the first of the week. First of the week. Yeah, I could get those to you. You mean just simply like all alphabetical or all whatever by street?
As long as they're sorted the same way as each
Yep.
other, I don't
Yep.
care. Okay.
Yep.
The first name would be a little bit difficult, but address or last name would
Yep.
be.
Do these
Then we can do a
surveys,
count.
are these surveys going to all the residents or just homeowners?
All of the voters
Yep.
and all of the property owners.
Okay.
But the idea is, if somebody's both, we don't need to send 2
No, I
surveys. So
understand that.
Right,
So we need to get that count,
yeah.
Yeah.
and then we
Yeah.
can figure out how we're gonna
Sure.
pay for this and whether you're gonna do the return envelope and all that.
I've been prodding, finally getting somewhere on this, so.
What else do you need from us?
Well, it sounds like we're not ready to schedule, I mean, I've done my part, and, we'll help you get it out the door, but we're gonna have to work together
I
on
can get this one.
paying for it, because it's a lot longer than we budgeted. And now heavier than we budgeted postage for as well, so,
Yeah, and bulk mailing, the logistics of that just cannot apply to this. It won't work, plus it's too expensive. I mean, you have to pay for the permit to begin with, and then that's a couple $100, so.
the town doesn't have a plan. Yeah, we don't either.
Okay, so when we have a count,
Right.
then we can figure
Then
out
we
what
can
it's
figure
gonna
out a cost and
Yeah.
how to work together on getting it done, and then you guys need to meet and actually stuff the envelope.
Right, we're gonna have to have a little party at your house.
What?
Well, just,
Are we getting paid for that?
you wanted
We're not getting paid for this.
I'm not getting paid for it as what is, so to make
Okay.
this a bare bones budget, we
Right.
put in everything you could do yourselves on you.
So,
The kicker is too, you put this online and all I can think of is like, so you're gonna mail it out and for these questions say, please select one, or please select as many as you'd like. And, for those questions that like, please select one, someone can go in and just like, all the way across. versus online where you can actually, limit it to one.
Yeah, it
and,
doesn't happen too much. We don't get too many that we
Really?
can't use,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was
If you
exactly
can't
what I
follow
was thinking, like,
directions, you
budget
get a
it.
0.
Well, that was
I mean,
my plan.
there's always one, but not, I mean, not a significant number.
Well, now you know it's me.
Okay, yeah, we know that now. We've,
The little faces.
Yeah.
Okay,
so the other piece that we wanted to start talking about, I think, we had in the work plan to do some kind of subject by subject roundtable meetings as a way to sit down with the recommendations that are in the last plan and the survey results when we have them, and get some kind of targeted input on a different topic. And how we talked about doing this when I scoped this out with you guys a while ago was you'd advertise them to the public, but there'd be certain groups and individuals that you'd really get on to try to get there with knowledge on the topic. I'm thinking we should, if we want to do that, let's say we get the survey out and back, and you all are entering the data too, so we need to allow some time for that. But if we started planning these for spring, figuring we get the survey out and back and done and entered over the winter, well, people don't want to drive out to meetings anyway. That if we started kind of planning these for, say, March, April, and May, we'd be in good shape to get people before they're thinking about other things for the summer.
so we just need to group them by topic.
Yeah, so that's, it's time to start thinking about how you want to organize them, and, how many and what topics and what sorts of people at each. And where you want to have them. This isn't the right space for rolling up elbows and working together with people, so we probably need to
Does
think about
anybody,
that too.
excuse me, does anybody know offhand, Rebecca or Steve, the college schedule, the holiday closure?
For Winterim?
Winterim, yeah, if that's what they still call it, because I don't want to get these surveys out so they sit at the post office or come back. And
Yeah, most people are gone until the 4th week of January.
The classes start like the 24th,
Yeah.
around there.
okay, so if we put because here we go with the holiday hoo-ha, if we put the survey out maybe February 1st, had our stuff back. I mean, we could get them out now, I just think they're going to get caught up, I mean, in whatever, 10
Right.
days or so, I think they're going to get caught up in exams and holiday things, and I don't know what you
think
guys
those
feel like
student voters, is that
a
who get their
significant,
mail here?
significant portion.
What
of
about
the
a drop
voter
date of like
registration.
mid-January, so it won't be sitting for too long, but it'll maybe push the process forward a little,
Right, so you don't have to wait till February.
yeah.
Yeah, it could, except I'm not sure about mail delivery.
How about the people that go to Florida during the wintertime?
They would have some mechanism
have-
for
yeah, I
getting their
mean,
mail. It would
yeah,
be
it's
forwarded
first
to
gonna
where
be
they are.
First-class
Yeah.
mail, so it would be
Right.
forwarded if they.
No return service requested or anything like that, so it'll get forwarded.
And they can fill it out or they can go online, whatever's easier for them.
I just don't know about the machinations of
Florida, don't
campus
necessarily,
delivery
don't have-
when.
You're not
I think it's
proficient
still
in the wonderful life of electronics now.
Or I'll try to
I
find
must know
out.
all the outliers.
Huh?
I must know all the outliers, all the 80-year-olds that are on Facebook. How long will it be out? What's the duration once you send it out, that you're leaving it out to be completed?
I wouldn't give people more than 4 weeks.
Right, okay. So if it went out mid-January, could you have them start coming back in mid-February? So we could tabulate them later in February?
Yeah, I want to double check on the
Where the mail
internal,
go.
the internal
Yeah.
PSU, once the US Postal System gets the mail to wherever.
Where it would
in a
be
dorm,
to-
where it,
Yeah.
yeah, where does it go? How long does it sit? Does it go back? I
I
don't
think,
know.
yeah, I think you'll find everything gets mailed. I mean, the mail folks are all there, and they'll be in the student's box or faculty box or
So do they keep the same box if they move around?
There'd
I
be
would think
very
so.
few that would move in Winterim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, last time around with this master plan, we had quite a few public meetings, not here, but like at the senior center and places like that. Are we going to be involved with that.
And that's what I'm saying, that I think we should start kind of thinking of when those would be and,
Yeah.
and how to organize the topics.
And these are kind of like the intermediate ones. These are like mid-process, get feedback from people and what we're hearing.
Right.
When we tabulate
Well, not necessarily, I mean, that's how we scope this out to develop the recommendations, and, I mean, they'd be real work at me, is not just, what do they think about stuff, but what do they want to do with this recommendation that was in the last plan?
so we can have
which would be the
updated data
priorities
on
and-
housing and land use and for these meetings?
Some, I mean, you didn't budget for that whole, data volume of the master plan, but
Right.
you're obviously gonna have to pull some together for this, so we'd have the land use and we'd have the survey results, so that we could facilitate the discussion.
Is the budget on this master plan different from the budget from the master plan the last time
Oh,
around?
significantly. Yeah, I think that ended up, well, it went forever, but I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, that was 35,000 or, I don't know, and it went on forever. We've
Yeah,
got
so
like
this is about half,
about half.
yeah.
I mean, we can always appropriate money in other budgets for recommendations, like for land use updates, maps and things like that. But this is bare bones for now.
I was just wondering because we had a lot more intense study and activity last time than we did this time.
Who actually writes the document?
What's that?
You do?
Unless you want to.
No.
My question on the survey tabulation, the paper copies that come back to us, are we just going to tabulate them in SurveyMonkey so all of our findings are in one place? It's way easier to generate reports if you have all the data in one location.
Maybe, I mean,
Well, it sounds like it's a decision for us to make if we're the ones tabulating, entering data and
right,
tabulating.
I mean,
If you
you,
want to do cross tabs and stuff, you don't want to have two databases.
it seemed like, I mean, if you just need to think about, how to identify whether it was a mailed survey or not, because that was important to people, to be able to keep track of those responses separate from the online.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. That's why we had talked about printing it with an ID, and people can put the ID in online if they're doing it instead of a paper one that they got. So that might work.
How would you normally tabulate the data?
Usually I do it in Excel.
So, can you export from SurveyMonkey to Excel?
You can export a few different ways, but you're not going to have it do cross tabs as easily, and you're not going to have it generate graphics. So typically when we do it, we end up getting most of them, unfortunately. Most of them come back electronically,
Yeah.
even when you send out paper copies.
And can you import Excel tables into?
I haven't had luck putting stuff into SurveyMonkey.
Hmm.
I haven't tried it either. But it's just been easier if you're going to have someone enter data to have them enter it. You can lift the one response per computer thing when you go into your processing phase and then just put it right in. It's so easy to put it right into the survey.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
That's
on
why I asked the question.
an online survey, you could have, enter your number here or no
Right.
number,
Right.
so,
Just a field.
yeah.
So are we using SurveyMonkey to do the online survey?
I was contacted by somebody with the town,
Julia, our IT person?
I don't remember the name. But did you connect with her about putting it on the
Somewhat, I
website?
think. Phil was,
Yeah, well, I contacted Juliet a while ago.
yeah.
Right, and she thought the survey was all ready and contacted me to
Oh.
put it on.
There you
and-
go.
Not yet.
So she was gonna like set it up in SurveyMonkey?
I
Or?
don't,
Well, she's on notice, so
That's too bad.
get something.
Well, that's a good thing.
so you're thinking you wanna put it on hold till,
Well, I just think, I mean, this is December 3rd. I mean, I think everybody's attention span starts to diminish. From what I've seen, you know, I mean, we keep plugging away, but everybody else is, you know, they have other considerations, and with a significant portion of the addressees on the voter registration list being PSU students, you know, they're gonna be exams and out of here. Exams, papers, and see you later. And it would be an awful waste of time and momentum and energy and money to not have that realized.
Let's not plan the first public meeting till April then, so that you have March to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
it,
I mean,
get your arms around the results.
as we said, this isn't a terribly fast process, and I do really think timing is everything. Because we've got a really good product here now, and, you know.
Don't we have a substantial amount of time? Because they've got we were talking about it being a master plan period of time.
Yeah, we have as long as we want, and like I said, you know, we can reappropriate, you know, in the, not this upcoming fiscal year, but the one after if need be for adjunct issues. I mean, we're doing slow and steady. Last time it took forever, and it took so much more money, and yes, you had a big thick document, as we said, but the implementation piece was pretty lacking.
Yeah. I just don't wanna see your kind of roundtable discussions run into the summer, and then you have the problem of everybody's gone.
No,
for-
maybe we could just, you know, kind of have a concentrated over 6 weeks or something. Boom, boom, boom.
So April and May. maybe.
Yeah, because we're out of, excuse me for interrupting, because we're out of town meeting, and we're out of all that, which takes everyone's concentration away from other topics, even though they're interrelated, so.
Can I ask, I have a question about the public meetings? So the first public meeting you're targeting, you know, around April or whatever, to look at the, you know, the outcome of the master plan, the old master plan, to see what should be, wasn't that? didn't you
No,
mention that, or-
if I understand it correctly, it's more, we would have focus groups by genre, if you will, after the master plan's been out there, and people get that in their heads, and then you pull out particular groups of particular interests and delve into things more, if that's right, Tara, and it's kind of.
So you're planning on developing a master plan from the responses from the questionnaire by April?
No,
No,
you'll have the survey,
no, just,
so say you'll have an economic development roundtable, and you'll invite economic development experts and local business leaders. You'll also advertise it to the public. You'll have the survey results in hand, and we'll, you know, start out the meeting with a little overview of
Okay.
those results and key data. And probably also hear the recommendations from the last master plan, because this was supposed to be an update.
That's what I heard, yeah. And there were like a lot of recommendations
So,
for the last master.
you know, are these good, are they not, are there different things, which 5 would be the priorities? Because I think there was agreement that there was just way more in the last master plan than was ever really gonna happen, and that this needs to be a little
so
bit
this
more
is like a
focused.
refining, perhaps, a little more, and then you've got more narrative or more data, oral data to go into the,
Is there any way we're gonna have a follow-up plan on this? Because that was a weakness that was in the last master plan. We had spent all kinds of money, all kinds of time, and everything else, and then he stuck it back in the back room somewhere, and never for it to be seen again.
Well, I think Tara addressed this earlier on, that it's not going to be as the volume of the old master plan, and it actually will have accountability built into it. You know, so we'll have, you know, someone's going to be in charge of like making sure that something has been done, either selectmen or planning board or somebody.
As long as there's a follow-up, because that's, after all the gnashing of the teeth last time, that was forgotten about.
Well, this is the group that has ownership of that plan, and you know, it's a good thing to have regularly, once a year, pull it out and go through the implementation plan and see who needs to be nudged or what the planning board needs to be taken up.
I was just gonna say, I completely agree with John, that I think that and I think this is something we need to be bringing up every time we're talking about the master plan from this point on, is just how are we gonna implement this? And how are we gonna maintain it until it gets updated again?
I think too, the old master plan was so intense
Mm.
that nobody really ever wanted to look at it again.
Well, there were no viable funding. Part of the implementation piece didn't even talk about money, and unfortunately, that's where, a lot of that came down to.
But that, I was thinking of that with a survey, but I think this is something that will have to come up with the public meetings, is the money part of it, a lot of it. Because like
Reality
Bill
check.
said he wants
Yep.
a new safety complex, and somebody might suggest that, that costs money.
Well, I think that's where we're trying to steer people toward the idea of that they're making choices, because the other master plan was a little bit more
Yeah.
wish list, like.
Well, and like you said, then it falls on us to implement, and it falls on us to have public dialogue about regulatory changes, to do a policy audit with our existing regs, which
Oh,
we know
yeah.
have a lot of problems. And a lot of that can be done within this board and with Sharon's help. So just a matter of kind of putting that work plan together, because I would agree with both of you that it's not worth doing this if we're
See,
not going to implement it.
this is what my complaint has been right along, is that we have been lax in governing ourselves and working within ourselves for a lot of these different problems that we have, because a lot of times we wouldn't have a meeting if there wasn't some type of an application.
Okay.
So, and as I went back to my old Masonic days, if you didn't have an active client or candidate, then you did practice work, and I think just as we've got to be more diligent, and if there's nobody to work with out there for anything new application, we should go over this stuff ourselves and at least spend some time on a regular basis of keeping these meetings alive.
A lot of boards, have this regularly, this one meeting a month that's the workshop kind of meeting. And then, have you done that before you're working on the master
Yes,
plan? or-
first Thursday is always work session.
So what did you do in those before you were doing this? What did those look like?
You
Well, you've got a
approve
new board
minutes?
here. You've got a new board.
We had the opening and adjournment at the same time.
Yeah.
Therein lies the problem.
Yeah.
We had some public comment.
Yeah, right. But I know one time right here, we didn't have any, this was quite a few years ago, but we didn't have any active applicants or anything like that. So the plan had asked, in fact, it went through North Country Council, and they brought a person down with a lot of the rules and regulation, and they invited like the surrounding towns to have a representative here, and that really went over big, but that was the end of it. Yeah.
Can I ask a question going back to the groups that we were talking about? Are we looking at, for demographics, are you looking, like the senior center, are you looking to get groups of college students, business owners? I mean, how many groups are we talking about here?
Well, I think
These
you
meetings,
all
I
need
guess.
to have a discussion about how to organize
Yeah.
them by topic.
Yep.
Right, and then for each topic, who are you gonna reach out to?
Right.
They'll all be public meetings, but there's
Targeted
certain topics you'll
audience,
make,
Yeah.
extra effort to get certain groups and people there.
Well, I don't understand that. In other words, you're gonna point a public meeting for a specific group?
Well, let's just say that, the subject that you're gonna talk about recommendations to do with the community facilities and transportation.
Yeah.
So you'd widely advertise that to the public, but you might reach out to, certain town staff who manage the town facilities, the people like the fire chief who deal with the current building and
That's a huge.
transportation providers. That's what I mean, that there's
Is
certain
that
people you don't wanna be,
discrimination?
no. if
Just
you
saying you wanna
didn't,
make sure that
if you
they're
didn't,
Yeah.
otherwise, what's your reality check?
Exactly.
You know, otherwise you just have another wish list, as
Well,
opposed to
the thing,
people that are really knowledgeable on the topic that
you
you're
know,
talking about.
I hate to keep pounding Bill on this, but on a new safety complex, you're gonna send them just to the policemen and firemen? You know what the answer is gonna be on that? Yeah, we really want a brand-new building with all bells and whistles.
You're also inviting the public to those meetings as well.
You'll be there.
Right.
Yeah.
And you certainly couldn't have that conversation without them either.
Right.
Right.
Well, I understand that, but
Right.
that's what my
You know, you're just
question
gonna end
was.
up with another, if you don't have the people involved in the recommendations that are knowledgeable on the topics. You can't have a meaningful economic development plan without the local business people.
Well, I
for
understand
example.
that, but
So you'd
you are
wanna,
also gonna-
wanna divide up that list and
you're
everybody
gonna
make
also
calls and,
ask the general public to come too.
right, to
Okay.
all of them.
Yeah, we're just gonna
Okay.
break it down into different meetings of different specific topics, so it's not this big hodgepodge, so you can focus down on the particular issue.
So it's the subject that you're
Correct.
going to be
Yeah.
spearheading and not the audience.
Right, so what would your ideas be for dividing up the subject?
I would say, businesses. I don't know, you know, with the hospital, would emergency management be one? I don't know. I don't know if it falls under something like that.
One, I think you should have a general meeting for the first few questions, because if that's what you're gonna do, because they're more or less general, but then you get into specifics as to, you know, the type of businesses that you want. So, like 8 through 10 or something like that.
Well, all of the survey results will be available at every meeting. We'll just highlight whichever ones are relevant to the topic. Do you see kind of facilities and transportation being one meeting or two meetings? That's the kind of thing you need to be deciding, so we can figure out.
I'd say we start with no more than 5,
If you're gonna
Yeah,
get,
You don't
less.
want,
Yeah.
yeah.
and get less than 5, so
If you can have
Economic development.
interrelated entities.
if you're
in the
gonna
lives.
get busy people there in April, you need to start talking to them in January. So we really need to be thinking whether we can get dates and a location.
Yeah.
Is there any way we can get at least dates before we mail this out, so we could actually have them on, I mean, I see a little bit of space here or in the letter.
Can I ask you a question?
We could try,
When
yeah.
we put that survey out to the taxpayers and to the homeowners, does that ever include any business owners that are not residents of Plymouth? Because there's a lot of business owners that are not residents of Plymouth.
But if they own property, they should.
Or they
Yeah.
could come, the stakeholder meetings is where you would get that input, because there again, there's overlap.
They can do it online too.
Yeah, or on the.
will there be a public advertisement that the survey is available?
Yeah, this is my piece, and there's a lot of behind the scenes, you know, this implementation, yeah, so we need to make sure we get things in the proper order.
Well, my suggestion would be that on our next work session, that we have our 5 topics, or however many topics there are in
5
order.
topics, and we might want to do a press release at that time to
If the next,
introduce this.
I think it'd be good if we could leave here tonight with the topics,
Yeah, I think
because
we need to.
then we could put it in the letter. Because I think you'll be, I mean, it sounds like your January 7th, I think it is,
Yeah,
meeting of this group is when you'd be
the next work.
filling the envelopes. So we wanna, if we're gonna be able to get the dates and topics to put in the letter,
I think as much information as we have, if we could include that in the letter, and that at least gives it a heads up, so it's
That something is coming, yeah.
Yeah.
It won't, unfortunately, I would caution against trying to nail down specific dates, because you have to have, there's so much
Right.
logistical backup to it, like, public notices in the newspaper, there's holidays. I mean, this is
right.
not for you guys to worry about, but it's not that,
You don't think we could
Direct.
just ask the senior center, or however many dates we?
well, we can, I mean, you can flesh out some.
If we could just give a date range, we're gonna be doing this.
A date
know,
range,
And
yeah.
look on the
April, yeah,
website.
yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Because, believe it or not, it's a busy season for municipal things going on. I mean, budget hearings and town meeting and last public hearing for this and last public hearing for that. And we want to make sure we don't run into interference with other things, so you're losing your audience. School district budget final, it's busy.
Okay, so I have two topics so far. One would be business development and growth. The other would be transportation and town facilities. And so what are some others that we can get on here?
University relations or something to that effect, something to do with the college, maybe? I don't know if that, for the college kids, if you want to see, I don't know.
It would be an opportunity to look at the university master plan too, and have people from the university give
That, because
feedback.
we did want to key them in, tie
Right.
them into this. And that was going to be the mechanism for it, way back in our discussion.
I'd like to see some sort of environment piece.
How would you word that?
Maybe the
We'll say
natural
recreation- Natural resources.
Natural and historic resources and recreation might be one.
I don't know if this fits into one of the other categories, but like some sort of cultural
Yeah,
thing.
I would put it in there too. I mean, that's, if we looked at the recommendations in the old plan, that's probably similar to how they're organized.
Tara, is your thought to have one of these sessions be a future land use session where after hearing from the other sessions, we can have dialogue with a group bigger than us about any changes to the
I had
land use
written
pattern?
land use, but I'm just was trying not to lead the conversation. When I wrote them, I wrote land use. Usually what I end up doing is, as we go along, there's usually one or two land use issues or questions that bubble to the top, as, that here's something that people want, but the planning board isn't getting a sense of what's gonna be well supported by residents to get there, and do meetings specific to that.
Because there were a lot of
That might be
recommendations in the
later
last
in the-
one that created some rub with people,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna ask people for feedback and
So it might be
surveys.
later in the process.
I think later in the process
Yeah.
is fine, as long as we have it at some point.
That whole,
It'd be interesting to just see how these translate into the land use conversation.
Right.
I mean, it's hard, people have a hard time, as you know, just thinking and talking about land use. Like, what does that mean? But
Right, so
we
far.
talk about it from the perspective of business growth and facilities and natural resources.
so I've got
And
four.
then I wrote emergency management and hazard mitigation might be one.
Yeah, Andy and I were just talking out of turn, but whispering. Could we plug that into transportation and facilities? I see that as kind of evolving into a little bit of infrastructure.
Transportation and community facilities, infrastructure related
Where
section.
are you at in your hazard mitigation plan? When does it expire? What's your
I
timetable
think
on
it's
that?
fairly current. It was just done, I think it was just updated. I know it was out of my hands the last time it was updated, so I think we're pretty good with that.
They give you, it's at 5 years and they
Right.
give you the grant at like year 3.
Yeah, and Paul would know.
I just wondered if there's a group of people that are used to meeting together for that, who just.
It's usually department heads,
Yeah.
if you're involved in it, yeah.
So would they come to they would come to a meeting that you had about facilities?
I would think so. I would hope so.
So you got the one category with like four topics? Emergency
You
management,
could always
hazard-
extend it into another.
facilities, transportation, and hazard mitigation,
Yeah,
and emergency management.
I think community facilities and
Community
transportation
facilities, yeah.
together would be enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have a pretty current plan, you might not need to have a
Right.
focus group on that. We can just kind of set that aside.
I mean, sometimes the opportunity for these topics is not only to see what you need or you want, but to also share the information about what you have. So everybody's on board with the same information and is current. You know, it's not necessarily a work task topic. In this particular situation, it might not be.
Is there any way that during these public meetings, we couldn't have some vehicle where people could also put down what they want?
Well, they're just, yeah, I mean,
You know,
and the survey is kind of their chance to say what they want. These meetings are how you're gonna get there.
right, but these are our ideas of what we want, and
No,
These are
they're
just
going to roll up their sleeves and come up with the ideas with you.
I think multiple forms of feedback, though. Anything we can do to get, so someone that doesn't feel comfortable speaking, or if it gets contentious, they can at least leave a thought.
Yeah.
you know, just having pads or something like that, so people could write down what they wanted.
But I don't, these aren't gonna be meetings where people come and sit in an audience. They're gonna be working meetings, facilitated
Right,
working meetings.
I think a lot of these boards and so forth in Plymouth, New Hampshire are pretty well loaded with either educational people or some specific occupational issue, you know, people that are there. So, you know, if we're thinking of environmental and educational, somebody out here in West Romney that would like maybe something, you know, they might like to know what new business would they like or something like that, because you can direct your questions so that people are going to answer yes or no and get the answers back that you want to get back or what we want to get back. So I'm just saying that if they had a chance to write down what they want, the people of Plymouth want, then that might be interesting.
I would say also that, you know, some people can't make a meeting and they might have an opinion about something.
That's right.
Yes, they just,
So that would be the mechanism for,
Yeah, right.
right, John? So that we can
Yeah,
just have that as part of the
yeah.
notice of the meeting.
so,
Because
So
If
we
you
have-
can't attend, email your comments to,
this is what happened the last master plan, and you can just see the direction that all the questions were answered, and people answered the questions okay, but they didn't have the chance to say, you know, this is what we really want.
So we're looking at four meetings.
you've
I
got
think.
four?
Sounds like
Okay.
kind of the
Five.
business growth,
I-
economic development,
Culture.
facilities,
let's go in
transportation,
there.
the resources and recreation, natural, historic, cultural.
So are you folding,
and the university kind of to learn about, you know, maybe get somebody from the university to come talk about their master plan and brainstorm some on ideas for improving communications.
so are you combining or putting hazard mitigation, emergency management kind of in that?
Well,
It works.
If you
No,
have
it
an
works.
up-to-date
Yeah,
plan, you
yeah, it
really
works.
don't need to have.
No, you don't, a separate, no, you're not starting, you're absolutely right.
You
You're
already
not,
have those recommendations.
right, so we'll fold those into one.
That would be my idea, is having somebody from Walmart or some of these other businesses come in and talk to maybe the goods and bads about what Plymouth, the direction that they think maybe Plymouth might go in.
That's exactly who you want at the business economic development meeting.
Right.
I don't
But-
wish-
That's the perspective you need to hear.
But if they're not there to speak, it can get run over pretty fast.
Well, that's why I'm saying that there are people you're gonna wanna reach out to make sure are at the table for these topics.
Where does agriculture fall in this, in these groups?
Natural
Last,
resources.
master plan.
Natural
Or
resources.
potentially economic development.
Either or, I mean,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
cross.
Can,
So we'll put in the letter that it's gonna be a series of 4 meetings in April and May,
Business or economics. or
but we won't have
resource-
dates yet.
natural resources.
Okay.
do we have it as economic development or business development? For that first one?
Yeah, economic should be.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Well, the two
What did you
development-
say?
economic development.
Yeah, that's what I had written.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't read my sheet, are you crazy? Okay, we have our topics. Next, Tara, on your list of things to do with us?
That's all I had mine tonight, and so Sharon and I will work together to make sure you have surveys to put in envelopes at your January meeting.
January 7th.
We'll get you a map with letters on it. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good holiday, everybody.
You too. Thanks for all your work.
Thanks for your work, yeah.
Yeah, well, you know.
Okay, Sharon.
Yes, all right. The piles of paper that you have. An RSA and an excerpt from our zoning, two-page excerpt from our zoning. Thanks, Karen.
Right, thanks.
This is a cleanup that's recommended by the town council. I think I mentioned it last time, to implement ASAP.
And
It's
that was this one.
correct, because this comes up a lot in zoning. It's all about our timetables for special exceptions and variances are markedly different from the relatively new RSAs that have come in. So this is a quick fix for us to change this to go along in tandem with the RSA that I've given you the copy of. It's recommended by town council. Now, of course, as we know, our zoning needs a complete overhaul, but this is a quick fix. It has to be put on the warrant for town meeting as a zoning change. So we have to go through all the different criteria in terms of public hearings on it and this and that. And you weren't here till February last year, so Rebecca's been through town meeting stuff, and of course Steve has and Bill has. So we'll have to have, we can tack it on to, well, there's not that many meetings. We're going to have at least one, if not two, special hearings in January, and here comes all the municipal stuff I was talking about, to have a public hearing for input on this change, which is pretty much totally administrative. But nonetheless, we have to have a public hearing, duly noticed and everything else. So I guess, however you want to do it, digest this.
To my question, before you, I'm a little confused about the
Yeah.
notations here,
I beg your pardon?
about the notations.
Oh, this is from my zoning book, so all the miscellaneous, just ignore it. It was already on the master that I Xeroxed.
So what are the changes that we're looking at?
Okay, what you want to,
Specific.
okay, our zoning, page 68 refers to special exceptions, and at C, it says, special exception shall be void, et cetera, if substantial building development has not begun within 1 year from the date it was granted. Now, you just went through that with the site plan, which expired, and the ZBA on Tuesday just had to do the same thing on that same case to reapprove their special exception. So we want to take this little detour that we really shouldn't be doing totally out. So you're doing that for special exceptions. The next page, at the top of the page at C again, refers to the same thing in variance. We're trying to get our time frame on ZBA work, which is not your purview, but it's in the ordinance, which is your purview, to sync up with the relatively new RSA.
Okay, so we've got
So
C on the first page,
right, the language you would be using, and I can craft it and you can approve it because it is so simple, it's purely administrative, would be based on the RSA to essentially tie it in and say, no, they do not have 1 year before expiration, they have 2 years.
okay, so we're basically going to cut and paste from this to this.
Well, yeah, I'll come up with some simple language, pretty much, but you've got to give me the go-ahead to do this, so I can have you look at it, so we can convene at least one public hearing in a certain time frame, and there's all kinds of particulars at the state level on that, as Bill knows. January 7th, which is our next workshop meeting, is the last day I can get a notice out for a public hearing. It would be nice if maybe we could sync up, so you don't have to have a bunch of extra meetings. At this point, it's only one, but if there was a preponderance of input from the public, which I don't think there will be because it's kind of boilerplate, you might have to have two and on and on and on. So it's maddening, but it is the way democracy works in this state. So I guess I don't know if anybody wants, it's really simplistic. I got you all the paperwork so you could look at what we have, what we should have, and then yay or nay to me going ahead and changing the language so we can get on the warrant eventually after these public hearings.
So you need a vote from us?
At some point, yeah. But it might be, I mean, a vote to proceed or
Sure.
I make a motion to
Okay.
vote.
Second.
proceed to change that.
All in favor? Aye. It's done.
How about any discussion?
It's all people.
Oh, you want to discuss it?
Yeah, I just,
Okay.
so the only issue that you're thinking that we should bring forward is the 24 months versus 12 months?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, this has the, the statute has, we go beyond that as far as maybe extended once for a period of no more than 12 months upon receipt of written request for extension
Yeah,
of
you
at
want
least
to make
14
sure
days.
that still is what you want.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing statutorily deficient other than the 12 months.
If you think so. I
No,
think so.
Have you reviewed the
but-
RSA? The-
Yes, oh, yeah. I mean, we're not gonna, it's simply, as instructed by town council, we need to get synced up, and it's about the time frame. Ours is a year short of what the state allows, and it puts the ZBA at this point at risk of, it's incongruous with the
Based
RSA.
on the town council, his
Right.
only finding was that this was
Yeah.
non-compliant with the
Right,
statute.
I mean, you could certainly look at what you advocate for the protocol for extensions. If you want to change that, you can change that.
I don't want to touch it unless, that's just my opinion, unless it's like
Right.
contrary to the statute. But
No.
it's just our own little
I
thing.
mean, our site plan regulations, I think, require 30 days before. It's really nice when everything lines up the same, because I spend half my life here bird dogging stuff that's going in two different directions. So, that's what we're trying to do slowly is clean this all up. So you tell me and I'll do it.
Aye.
Well, Sharon's going to draft it, and then it's going
Yeah.
to come back to us, and we'll either approve it or not.
So could I, John made the motion to go ahead
You have the motion to go ahead.
and draft this, and I'll send it out electronically and get some feedback, and then,
Who seconded it?
Steve did,
Okay. Oh, yeah.
the chair.
I mean, it's gonna be very simple, but I've gotta get the ball rolling with
Right.
all this protocol, because it's gonna sneak up quicker than you
At the
think.
timelines.
That's why I have gray hair now, because I lost half my life in public hearings.
Is there any other new business to attend to this evening?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do we have a zoning board, or do we have a zoning board of adjustment?
It's the same thing.
What's that?
It's the same thing. One is the technical name. Yeah, it's the ZBA, so.
Any other new business?
I don't think so. That was it.
Any comments from the public? Frank isn't here tonight.
It goes to Frank Miller.
What do you think? Tell us who did
All right, do I have a move to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
There are no objections, we are adjourned. It is 7:48.
Yeah.